What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So, I just want to start off with this. Stephon Gilmore, 2019 NFL Defensive Player of the Year, did not report to mandatory minicamp for the New England Patriots yesterday. So what's interesting with Gilmore is $4.5 million of his of his salary was moved to him last year. He just it sounds like he just plans to skip minicamp and miss out on $93,000. He is seeking a new deal, but all this kind of stems from the cornerback market has changed since Jalen Ramsey now makes $20 million a year, and Gilmore wants to be paid as one of those top-notch corners, which deservedly so. Even though he turns 31 in September, Gilmore has just been outstanding. Like Jalen Ramsey, they're just both just physical, great man-to-man, fluid corners, and Ramsey actually is recruiting Gilmore to play in Los Angeles with him. Tweeted at him on Twitter and said something about how Mookie Betts went from Boston to Los Angeles, and Gilmore moving out there would could be a great move and bring him a championship and add to a tremendous defense. And that's just something I couldn't imagine. Him and Ramsey both playing corner would just be something else. I mean, that's a secondary that is just going to block up people, and you got Aaron Donald rushing the passer. That would be something to see. But for Gilmore, he's a guy that tore his quad in week 15 last year, put him on IR for the final 5 games of the year. But I love what Gilmore has done. I followed him closely back all the way at South Carolina, heading back to 2010, 2011. Had just the one Pro Bowl year with Buffalo, but I knew when the Patriots made this move back in 2017 when they signed him to the 5-year $65 million deal. I knew Belichick was going to coach him up and really get the most out of him because I knew he's been such a talented player. I mean, he runs in the 4.3s. He's got all the tools and everything you wanted in Gilmore, and he's had an outstanding career for New England. Had that big interception to pretty much seal the Super Bowl a few years back, and we'll see what gets done. It's interesting. They're talking to Pro Football Talk today, what teams may be interested in him, and maybe the Raiders come to mind, and the Cardinals, what Mike Florio and Chris Sims said. So I guess we'll see. But big news because Stephon Gilmore, New England's spending so much money in the offseason trying to make a championship caliber team. They need a guy like Stephon Gilmore out there to try to make that happen. But New England is not one to typically, overpay for guys that are aging like this for the most part. So, we'll see what happens with Gilmore moving forward. But, that's his plan to sit out the rest of mandatory minicamp. So, so a 3-time full Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro. So, So the next thing I wanted to get into is Chris Sims' top quarterbacks. At number 9, he had Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. And this is one thing I thought to myself that this could be a really big year for Dak Prescott. It's an interesting year, to say the least. Because the bottom line is he's got a lot to prove coming back from a nasty ankle injury. He just signed a 4-year, $160 million contract that's $126 million guaranteed. Dak Prescott is a athletic guy, makes plays. He's a great leader. He's a good man. He's recovered from a DUI that caused him to slip in the NFL draft. So they talk about maybe how the injury will affect him psychologically. I think as tough as Dak Prescott is, I don't think this really will affect him. I think he'll bounce back, and I think for the most part he'll put the injury behind him. But he should have a healthy Ezekiel Elliott back and hungry, after a disappointing 2020 season by Zeke standards. Dak said Zeke looks great. He's in the best shape of his life. That was a direct quote from Dak. And a great wide receiver core and Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CD Lamb. And Yeah, Prescott looked good in his first 4 games before he got hurt. Had a big game against Cleveland. It was like 4 touchdown passes to 1 interception. And then he had the great comeback against Atlanta and really competed against the LA Rams in Seattle. Seattle and Los Angeles were pretty good teams this year, both playoff teams. And, on the Monday night, they didn't play bad as a whole, but you really show that Prescott on the field really keeps them competitive in just about any game. So having him back is going to make a world of a difference to a Cowboys team that did a great job in the draft and getting some more pieces. I love what they did, getting Micah Parsons, Osa Digizua, and Kelvin Joseph, Jabril Cox. They really went defense heavy. So you're looking at a team that's not just going to be interesting with Prescott, but interesting as a whole. And yeah, you got a coach with Mike McCarthy with a lot to prove in year one after a really horrific season, for the Cowboys by their standards. So what's in store for 2021 and, Dak Prescott, and it's, he's a guy that you want to root for. He's a good man. So we'll see what happens heading into 2020. So, Kyle Pitts, to me, maybe the new favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I was saying Jamar Chase likely would have been the guy, but Pitts is in a good situation now. They moved off of Julio Jones, traded to the Tennessee Titans. And now if you look at the new favorites, according to, like sports betting odds, Trevor Lawrence plus 300 as the overall favorite. Najee Harris comes in second at plus 500. Trey Lance plus 600. Justin Fields plus 700. Pitts down plus 800. But, yeah, if you realize that you got to factor in the Falcons are a passing offense, and they really only have Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, and then, Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst is a good player, but he's not, like an elite player that's going to take a lot of targets from him. So if you look at all the target shares that Julio Jones accounted for the last few years, they took away from Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. Those are going to go, you got to think that Ridley's going to get a lot of those, but then that opens up a lot more opportunities that wouldn't have been there, say Julio Jones was still there. So Kyle Pitts has got to be at the top of the list for, betting odds as Rookie of the Year. He's got to be, one of the new favorites, even though his odds aren't the best. You got to think that, a lot more people are going to be betting on him. I still like Jamar Chase a lot at only, plus 1,200. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals have a good receiving core before they got Jamar Chase, but now that you add Jamar Chase, now I think it's a pretty very good to even great wide receiving core. Tyler Boyd, I think, will take some targets, and who else do they have there? Was the other guy? But yeah, their T. Higgins is the rookie they drafted last year. So they got a pretty good receiving core, but I think Jamar Chase really puts them over the top, and this offense really should be interesting to watch. And Jamar Chase is an alpha. He's a competitor. He's a guy that's hungry, and just his work ethic is really second to none, and has had the connection with Joe Burrow before. So at plus 1,200 for Jamar Chase, it's got to be a guy you got to keep an eye on, and it will likely be a guy that will get a lot of bets on. But yeah, Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts really stick out to me just because I love the competitiveness and the talent and the opportunity. So, and you could make the case with Najee Harris there, but I think Pittsburgh, their offense, with Big Ben and they have a lot of receivers, and this was an offense that threw a lot last year. I mean, obviously, if you draft Najee Harris, you could argue that, hey, they're going to switch back to, making running the ball their identity. But, I just, Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase, those seem just sure bet talents that are just going to step in and make an impact year one. And I think at the end of this year, you'll be saying, wow, this rookie class, especially like the top 5 to 10 picks, really made a big impact. I think this was a fairly top-heavy draft. I think there was some depth at it. There was some under-the-radar players in later rounds that can make an impact. A lot of people talk about Javonte Williams and, maybe even Trey Sermon. But, if you look at it, all these guys, that are Rookie of the Year favorite, these are all guys taking, top 15 Let's see here. Yeah, all these guys were top 15 picks. Some of them that have the best odds: Trey Lance, Najee Harris, even Zach Wilson plus 800, Mac Jones plus 1100. So yeah, it should be fun, and I'm excited to see this offensive rookie of the year. I think defensive rookie of the year, Micah Parsons seems to be the favorite, which makes a lot of sense. He's a linebacker who's likely going to start and get a lot of tackles, make a lot of plays. He gets a high year of, say he gets, 4 or 5 sacks, 10 plus tackles for loss. That's likely going to be enough to do it for him. And that's not unrealistic by any means. Yeah, so guys to keep in mind, I think J.C. Horn, say he gets a few interceptions and has a tremendous coverage grade. I'm not a big J.C. Horn fan, but it's one of those things, like, he matches up really well with the big, slower receivers. The like Chris Sims said, the the T. Higgins of the world. And, not just picking on T. Higgins, he's a good player, but, what I'm saying, when they go against, even Mike Evans, he's super talented, but not like a burner. When J.C. Horn, if he's matched up with a lot of guys like that, he could have a tremendous coverage grade by, Pro Football Focus or whatever. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on J.C. Horn. And, who else? Parsons' teammate, Jabril Cox, will see what he can do. Who else were some of the top rookies drafted? Jalen Phillips from Miami, another guy. The Dolphins' defense is already loaded this year and already have a lot of talent around him. You see that, he may not start, but he likely could, get double-digit sacks. And you got to feel, if Jalen Phillips gets double-digit sacks, something I don't think is unrealistic. He's got to be, right up there. His odds aren't even the best. I think he's, 3rd through 5th somewhere, best odds for defensive rookie of the year. But Jalen Phillips is a very, very talented guy. Other than if he didn't have the concussions, people would have been talking about him as maybe like the Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett type of elite edge rusher in this class. It's just and you don't really get to see that guy go to a great situation. You saw Nick Bosa he's so talented that he put the 49ers defense, he took it to that next level with his talent alone. The defense already, wasn't great, but they added some pieces too, and they, made quite the run to the Super Bowl just from Nick Bosa. And you saw Chase Young take that Washington football defense that was already very solid and make it a great defense. So, yeah, Jalen Phillips in Miami. Jalen Waddle, another guy too for offensive rookie there. But yeah, the Dolphins defense is just super talented, and this is one of the most talented, Miami Dolphins roster I've seen in a long time. I mean, guys that they drafted last year, Raekwon Davis made an impact. Raekwon Davis, a guy at Alabama that didn't, had a flash early on. I think he played all 3-4 years. He didn't, get gaudy numbers, but he was a guy that was just very solid and just ate up a lot of space. He's a big physical presence. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7". But yeah, the Dolphins. And, I'm not sure what's going on with Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, but you look at, they got a pretty darn good secondary. Then you add in at safety, Javon Holland, and the Miami Dolphins are it's a good looking ball club, especially on the defensive side. You hope that Tua can take the next step. They've added another weapon with Waddle. You got Devontae Parker there, Mike Gesicki, and Myles Gaskin, still a pretty solid running back. So a lot of people thought that the Dolphins were going to take a running back, either Najee Harris, Travis Etienne would have made a lot of sense because they had 2 first-rounders there. But yeah, those, like I said before, those first 3 picks the Dolphins made, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, and then Javon Holland early in the second. Those first 3 picks, though, right there are as good as any team's first 3 picks in the draft. And those are 3 guys that can make a tremendous impact. Jalen Phillips, who I just talked about. But, yeah. So yeah, Matt Nagy once again said on Chris Collinsworth's podcast that Andy Dalton is the starter and Justin Fields is the number 2. And to me, this just doesn't sit well with me because I'm more of you always want to have an open competition. If you look at the college level, not obviously the pro level is different. You got different contracts, guys making a different amount of money. Some guys on rookie deals. But the college level, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, a lot of those guys, there's no such thing as guaranteed spots. You look at, top college programs don't announce who their starting quarterback is till sometimes even when the first game of the year comes around. So, yeah, that's all about breeding a competitive atmosphere. If you announce a guy as a starter that early, then, the other guy can kind of get discouraged. But don't get me wrong here. Justin Fields is not that type of player. I don't think he's going to get discouraged by this. I think this is probably going to make him want to work more. But some guys that discourages them, then it kind of hurts the locker room and, kind of just breeds an atmosphere that kind of, resents the coach, even if they don't come out and say it. So, to me, yeah, you watch Hard Knocks, veterans get cut all the time. There's really no such thing as a sure thing in life or in college football or in the National Football League. So coming out and saying that Andy Dalton's the starter right away, I just don't really like it. It's just another thing that kind of checks the box on things I don't really like about Matt Nagy necessarily. I think he's kind of a guy that's been a con. I think he's kind of fooled a lot of people into thinking that he's a really good offensive mind. I think he's competent coach. I just don't think he's the offensive genius, kind of like what people thought. I think, my dad and I talk, I think the Chicago Bears window for a Super Bowl really closed a couple years ago when they had the double doinker kick. I think this was a team that was, that was really their big shot, because you brought in Khalil Mack, a younger Khalil Mack. He's now aging. And then, you had Leonard Floyd. You had a few more pieces on that defense. Now you're an aging team that's, really trying to really still establish, an identity offensively. Like I said, the Chicago Bears have been so painful to watch on the offensive side of the ball. You watch the defensive side of the ball, Roquan Smith, he's a stud. Khalil Mack's a stud. And it's your defense, it's aging and it's really not what it was when you made the Super Bowl run. So I like the Chicago Bears this year. I would love to see Fields get a shot. Still, wouldn't mind seeing what Andy Dalton could do, but to just come out and say that, I'm always for, open competition. And Bill Belichick said that with Cam Newton. He says Cam Newton's the guy and that Mac Jones is looks like the second string now. So, yeah, always for an open competition. And, that was weird of Bill Belichick to say that too. So, but obviously the National Football League's a little bit different. Cam Newton is done a lot more to really earn that right. Andy Dalton, you could argue, hasn't really done as much to earn that right, but he's had some good years in Cincinnati. If you look back, that 2015 team with the Andy Dalton was a very talented football team. That was a pretty darn good offense too. So, yeah, I'm always for open competition and keeping guys hungry. So, but moving on here. So I've been taking a deep dive into, some of the top quarterbacks for the 2022 NFL draft, and there's a lot of guys I really like. One guy I love is Spencer Rattler for Oklahoma. I think he's in a prime position to win the Heisman Trophy this year. You look at that's kind of been the combination for the Heisman Trophy. You take Lincoln Riley as offense success. You take a talented quarterback, athlete, and you just kind of combine them with that offense, and we lead to production against poor Pac-12 or Big 12 defenses. So, yeah, Spencer Rattler, it was just great to see him grow last year. You saw his in the first 4 games, 13 touchdowns, 5 picks in a 2-2 start. He did some good things pretty well, but he was also, his lows were very low. You saw, in the last 7 games, 15 touchdowns to only 2 picks, and they won 7 of their 7 straight games after the 2-2 start, including a bowl win over the Florida Gators. So it was awesome to see Spencer Rattler grow and just keep getting better, and then top the year off against we get a win over a tremendous Florida defense. So that was really super cool. Rattler, a top top 5-star prospect out of the Arizona area. That area is producing a lot of good players. This is a big year, and just his second year starting. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore. Did not really play at all in 2019. They had Jalen Hurts there. So Malik Willis, another interesting name from Liberty. He's getting a lot of hype. He's got a good arm, and his highlight tape is fun to watch as anyone. But I haven't really dove deep onto his film. Carson Strong from Nevada is a guy that really intrigues me. I watched Carson Strong, and he's just got a tremendously strong arm, pun intended there. But, he had a great connection with Romeo Doubs, and they had a tremendous year last year at Nevada, one of their better years. In school history, I think they only lost, 1 or 2 games, but that's usually kind of what the combination is for finding a elite quarterback that has NFL potential. Maybe they're on a poor program at times, and they really turn that program around and have a tremendous year. You saw with Zach Wilson last year. BYU hasn't really been super great, but things come together. They have a few more pieces, and Zach Wilson takes his game to a whole nother level, and they win a lot of games and put up a lot of stats. You saw Johnny Manziel didn't have a lot of success in the NFL, but you saw A&M, a lot of pieces came into place. Mike Evans, the offensive line, and sometimes when these pieces fall into place with a talented quarterback, you get a winning record for a team that is in like A&M, a tough conference, or in Carson Strong's case, a Nevada program that hasn't been an elite program, even a good program. But, he just did a tremendous job and, makes a lot of throws that just a lot of guys, especially in the lower tier level, can't make, and is really just not afraid to just sit back there and sling the ball. So keep an eye on Carson Strong for Nevada. Some other names, Caden Slovis, I might get a lot of heat, but Caden Slovis isn't necessarily my favorite quarterback prospect. So when I watch him, he can't really drive the ball intermediate throws. He does a pretty good job of, with I don't know, even decision making is questionable sometimes. He's pretty accurate, throws a pretty tight spiral, and he's been pretty much a winner the last couple of years, but just not a lot excites me with Caden Slovis. Not the most mobile athlete in the world either. So, but he's a guy that's getting a lot of hype. Sam Howell too. Sam Howell is another guy that Baker Mayfield really comes to mind. Howell is he's got a pretty good arm and put up good numbers, but this year is very telling for Sam Howell, like I touched on, because he loses a lot of weapons. Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, Diami Brown, still has Mac Brown coaching him, but they don't have the weapons they did in 2020 this year. So Sam Howell, another guy to watch. He's another guy that's projected top 3 player, arguably the best quarterback. Some people have him ranked ahead of Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. So you got to keep him in mind as next year comes around. Emory Jones from Florida. Emory Jones, a top-notch athlete recruit to Florida, like a lot of players that the Florida Gators get. Came in and played some good football, when Kyle Trask performed poorly in the bowl game. And, Emory Jones brings the element to, run and get outside the pocket and make plays outside of, when that kind of that structure crumbles. And, Emory Jones, just a talented athlete and, good opportunity, coached by Dan Mullen at Florida, a tremendous offensive mind. So Emory Jones, it's going to be his show at Florida next year. It's going to be the main man starter. So it'd be great to see what he can do for that football team next year in the 2021 season. In the SEC East, it's gotten a little bit tougher now that Georgia's added some more talent in Eric Gilbert, Darian Kendrick, and obviously the road would still finish likely through Alabama or maybe LSU if you make it to the national championship. So but a team that really excites me in the National Football League is the LA Rams heading into the 2021 year. The big news, Jared Goff no longer there. He's been traded to the Detroit Lions. Goff did some good things for the LA Rams. I went back and watched the Eagles games, and he was just, he played in rhythm. He made the throws that he needed to make. He really just kind of coordinated and played within that offense super well in a lot of games. And don't get me wrong, there were some games that really stick out as not good. The Super Bowl was just a very lackluster performance, and there was other games like that where he was turnover prone, and you get why that McVay and the fans have kind of turned on Goff, and rightfully so, but. You can't throw Jared Goff under the bus. He's not a bad NFL quarterback. He was drafted a first overall back in, 2016 for a reason. The guy is talented, still throws a beautiful deep ball, and, he can do a lot of good things in Detroit. So, still don't mind Jared Goff, and I'm so anxious to see what he does in Detroit this year. I think it's a very telling year, but that's kind of beside the point. Get back to it. Talking about the Rams. Stafford is the quarterback going forward, and he's the guy that Rams gave him a standing ovation at their season ticket holder practice that they allow, and they really know, the Rams fans know the talent Matthew Stafford has. I think Matthew Stafford doesn't get the national attention that a guy like Mahomes or Russell Wilson, some of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League, do. But you know what Matthew Stafford is capable of, and he has a tremendous arm. He's led the Lions to a lot of comebacks, no playoff wins, something that was harped on, and he's a guy that some Lions fans will say, people make too many excuses for him. But like I've always said, if you come into the league and you're going to play 11, 12-year career, and someone's going to tell you you're going to have poor offensive line play. Okay, I get the exception last year. The last 2 years they've been average, but for the most part, poor offensive line play. They've had no running game. Most years you have no 100-yard rusher. I think, what is it, only no 100, or you have seasons where you don't even have a guy have a game where he's over 100-yard rushing. And you have, I think, what is it, one year they had with Reggie Bush where they had like a guy with over 1,000 yards. So you basically have no offensive line play, no running game. You have a pretty poor defense. You have just terrible coaching. You have one guy that's an absolute idiot in Matt Patricia, has no idea what he's doing, and has just tries to be something he's not, in tried to be like Belichick. But point being that Stafford, a lot of things went against him. Comes to Sean McVay. McVay is excited for Stafford to be here. McVay is an offensive genius. All the motion and just the spark of life he's brought into the LA Rams franchise. Good young offensive mind. You see that's kind of like the formula for a winning coach, a talented young offensive mind like McVay. So, yeah. And then the defense is just uber talented. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, I could go on all day. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League. 4.4 speed, size, length, shuts down one side of the field. You got Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, just the best defensive player in the NFL, hands down. Really no debate at all. Aaron Donald just does so many things well, and I think that's going to be a thing for teams moving forward. What the Rams did trading for Ramsey, instead of just trying to get a bunch of solid players, why not just get two absolute superstars on your team? And you look at Ramsey has set the cornerback market, how valuable that position is, obviously. And with Donald, that's so crucial. Just get a guy that can elite pass rusher, get a guy that's elite in coverage on the defensive side of the ball, and you're going to be doing a lot of great things. But you saw in the Green Bay game when Aaron Donald was banged up and Jalen Ramsey didn't really have his best game, you saw just how much that really hurt the Rams, and it led to a Packers win. So, and the other exciting thing, Cam Akers, one of the best young running backs. I love Cam Akers, and he really flashed later on in the year, and which it was surprising that he struggled early. Kind of was a little hesitant. I don't think his confidence was up. You saw then they started to turn to Henderson and Malcolm Brown, but Cam Akers is a guy that just did so many good things at Florida State. And that really, you started to see what made him money and what's made him a high, second round draft pick in the National Football League coming out of Florida State. You really saw that, the speed and the athleticism and the physicality at, decent size with 6 foot, 220 some pounds, 4.4 speed. You saw what really, had success at Florida State. You saw those flashes later on with the Rams, and you feel like this is a year where all things with a better passing game and a spark of life in the offense with Stafford coming in and, McVay still doing his thing. This is setting up for a big breakout year for Akers. They do lose John Johnson, who played well at safety for them, but they have so much depth at the safety position. Taylor Rapp's another guy that really impresses me when you watch the Rams. He didn't necessarily play a lot. It was, Fuller and John Johnson. Jordan Fuller, just a tremendous rookie year coming out of Ohio State. I don't think many people saw him, making the impact like he did for the Rams. If you saw in Hard Knocks, they had to cut one safety that they were featuring in the show. I forget what his name is, but, Sean McVay just talked about what depth they had at the safety position. And, it'll be exciting to see this defense this year. I like Taylor Rapp a lot, and what he's brought to the LA Rams is it looks like he's playing on special teams, and he's as a guy that's not afraid to come up and make hits. And John Johnson heads over to this next team that I want to transition to, talking about the Cleveland Browns, and just what a awesome roster they have. One of the best offensive lines, first of all, in football. Jedrick Willis played tremendous as a rookie, played his football collegiately at Alabama, and Nick Saban had high praise for him. Comes in, and the Browns just need him to be a stud at tackle, and that's exactly what he did. You also got Batonio, Treader, Wyatt Teller, Conklin, a lot of young, talented guys on the offensive line, and a very good receiving core in Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, the rookie that flashed out of Michigan, and then Odell Beckham Jr. So hopefully Beckham is healthy, but they look like they were winning games. Appeared to not really necessarily need him. They were winning games and doing just fine without him. Drafted interesting player Demetric Felton from UCLA. He's a versatile guy that can play running back, slot receiver, kind of a do-it-all player. So, yeah, and then the defense really excites me. You bring in Jadeveon Clowney, who, Jadeveon Clowney, it's kind of maybe mixed feelings if you're a Browns fan, but you can't doubt the talent, the physical attributes that Clowney has, and he's shredded. Him and Myles Garrett, looks like they've been working very hard in the offseason, getting their bodies right. Myles Garrett's body's always been right since he came into the league. He is a physical specimen that has been a staple on that defense. So, and an improved secondary with hopefully a healthy Grant Delpit and a healthy Greedy Williams. Delpit, what was it, a torn Achilles or a torn ACL, but didn't get to see any action as a rookie. And then they get Troy Hill from the LA Rams. And then they drafted Richard LeCounte, Jeremiah Owusu-Karmoa, maybe the best pick in the second round. And then Tommy Togiai, the very strong defensive tackle from Ohio State, who had a big game against Clemson and played a lot of good football for Ohio State, did 40 reps on the bench press. So kind of just to put into perspective what kind of upper body strength Tommy Togiai has. So, yeah, the Cleveland Browns, they may not win the Super Bowl this year, but that is just, you got to appreciate what a tremendous roster that is. I'm always one that really looks back and appreciates, top-notch rosters, whether it's a college football team like 2015 Bama or 2013 Florida State, or, the 2015 Denver Broncos, or even this year's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's fun to see these teams kind of come together from top-notch free agent moves, top-notch draft picks, and the Cleveland Browns have a chance to be that type of team. So I love the Cleveland Browns roster. I talked to my cousin, and he's not trying to get too amped up, which is fair because. Just even the linebacking core, Mac Wilson too. And if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you got to be excited to watch this team and their running backs, and I'll I'll end it there with on an excitement note about the Browns roster. But yeah, Le'Veon Bell has been in the news in a negative way for the most part, saying that talking about his former coach Andy Reid. Bell said that he would rather retire than play for Andy Reid. the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Bell, first of all, does not regret saying that, which is interesting. Usually you'd probably see an apology for a statement made like that. Pretty rude statement, but, Bell seems to not really care. He didn't really get much of the workload, and it was kind of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie from LSU, made a big impact. And, to me, this really makes sense why, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben didn't win a Super Bowl, all three together, the Killer Bees, because it really just shows that he's more of an individual guy, more of a stats than he is a team player, which, isn't the worst thing in the world, but you kind of got to understand when you're getting up there in age. I know he was 28, but 28 is pretty old for a running back, let's be honest. You've seen Zeke and Todd Gurley. Zeke at 25, and then Todd Gurley at 26, you've starting to see wear and tear on their bodies only, a few seasons deep at 25, 26. Le'Veon Bell at 28 is, a lot more wear and tear on his body. So, yeah, I think Bell need to understand that, he came to the Chiefs and, only was active for 9 games this year. You kind of got to understand, I think he had, 300 some yards. You kind of got to understand that, this is kind of Edwards-Helaire's role at running back, and you got to just kind of cherish and every opportunity you get. It was kind of like Leonard Fournette this year with Tampa Bay. Fournette, was non-active. It wasn't an injury, and it sounded like that Bruce Arians kind of consulted with him that he was when he was frustrated about not playing that hey if you want to be here and get to a championship run with us. This is something my dad and I talked about. If you want to make a championship run with us, we want you to be here. But if you're not all in, then we'll release you. So that's kind of the Le'Veon Bell kind of was the same situation, but different in the sense that he didn't want to kind of cherish his role as being the second guy to Edwards-Helaire and making an impact in however way he can. That's kind of sports sometimes. You have to kind of put. I can remember back, when playing high school sports, maybe if you're not starting or making an impact, you kind of just have to understand that sometimes you have a role and you got to, do the most you can with your role to, try to help the team win. It's all about helping the team win in whatever way. Hunter Renfrow, a receiver for the Raiders, that he came out and, made a statement that you got to try to help your team win in whatever way possible. That's that's the key role of being on a sports team. So yeah, it's too bad for Le'Veon Bell, and it was cool that Andy Reid wished him the best of luck. But so hopefully moving forward, Le'Veon Bell can still make the most out of whatever the rest of his career he has. So but it's kind of too bad he made those statements public. So. But guys, quick reminder, I'm getting my website fully up and running. So if you guys want to go check that out, I'll have the full website linked below. If you guys want to click that link, I'm going to be posting articles more frequently. So. But, it kind of shows that Derrick Henry has kind of been the exception as he is, this first couple, 1 or 2 years in the league, wasn't getting the first full workload, and then kind of consulted with Eddie George and said, hey, man, your career's on the line. You got to just become that monster, that every down back, just become so much better than Deion Lewis or whoever they bring in to the Tennessee Titans and kind of just get it on board. And Derrick Henry has really accepted the challenge and has become that guy that with his exceptional, work in the offseason has become able to take the workload and stay healthy, which is just tremendous for Derrick Henry and tremendous for the Tennessee Titans. You saw the Titans dealt with some injury. Taylor Lewan got hurt last year, and then the receiving core wasn't great. Still have A.J. Brown. But obviously the monster news bringing in Julio Jones, 2 alpha receivers. Now you have an A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, and Ryan Tannehill, who just keeps playing great football, really gives the Titans a chance to make a big big run and even win the Super Bowl. A lot of people said that this is the move that really puts this team over the top from, maybe a wild card to, fringe playoff team. But, yeah, I'm going to wrap there, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Big Time Football Talk. Thank you so much for the continued support of the channel. Till next time, peace.